brought to you by Mastercard. I know I pointed out on partnerships right here locally with banks, but I'm curious to ask, do you have any other partnerships or collaborations that you're working with to advance the financial services tech in the region?
Yeah, I mean, look, we obviously work with telcos as well. So we've got a blooming partnership with Airtel and also MTN,
Okay.
where we're availing virtual cards. So virtual card, if you think about it, you hold a mobile money wallet, but maybe you can't make the type of e-commerce payments that you want to make. So by availing a virtual card, that allows you to have a funding source, which then allows you to make the e-commerce payments. So that's a great example in the telco space. With fintechs, it's quite broad. So we're working with people like Elliott. We're working with some of the remittance companies. We're working with some of the trade finance companies as well. So it's really about trying to understand where are people trying to move cash, and maybe there's a quicker or better way to do it. I mean, in the remittance space, if you think about it, sending money is still expensive. And sometimes you're not always sure about how much is going to turn up on the other side. And so with our transfer solutions capability, we can actually ensure that your payments will arrive the following day. It'll be the amount you thought it was going to be. And we're plugged into cash out, mobile money, card, etc. So we can do that across corridors around the world. So these types of capabilities ensure that some of the higher costs, which sometimes in Africa could be as high as 8 to 10%, are coming down more to around 4 to 5% in terms of the cost of the transaction as well. So it's not just about efficiency, but it's also about cost reduction.
Yeah. As we come to a close of this conversation, I'm curious to ask you two things about the security of people's money, because money is quite something close to people's hearts. What is this that you're looking at? Because I see, even we use the word hackers or people who are constantly, they're getting innovative by the day, and we're seeing great challenges coming up, not just to the financial ecosystem, but even in other fields, governments, data, and the likes. I'm sure you have your way of looking at it, and I'm wondering, what do we do? What can you assure people who are on the board?
I think that there are obviously lots of examples. It's been a great period of innovation around the transaction, both before, during, and after the transaction, and we've really worked on cybersecurity solutions.
Yeah.
But what I would say, which is very relevant in the world today and very relatable, is that when you go to make a payment in many countries around the world, you now don't, put your card into the terminal. You tap. But the next click of that, which is Apple Pay, is where you tap your phone on the terminal, which is a really sweet experience.
You're right.
Because, the checkout is literally a tap of the phone. Now, the way that happens is through what's called tokenization, where your credentials, which are provisioned into your phone, are encrypted and then de-encrypted onto the terminal. And so those tokenization services and standards have been worked on by the likes of Mastercard, so that your credentials remain safe in that moment of truth when you're trying to buy something.
Yes.
Right? So tokenization, I think, is a great example of where we can grow payments, especially around some of those lower ticket sizes where you used to take out a small amount of cash just to make a payment. Yeah, it's a great experience.
Yeah.
And so that comes back to what I was saying earlier. Ultimately, customers gravitate towards a great experience. I was with somebody last night who was making a telco transaction. It was clunky.
Yeah.
It was clunky. There were a series of different steps. And I was thinking, but why can't we just tap with our phone? That's a much easier experience. It's like this. So I think there's something about that, but at the same time, what we're doing in the back end is we're making sure that that's a secure payment with no risk.
All right. The stability of the region definitely is something of concern to you, since you are right at the center to ensure that you're enabling, the ecosystem work for you. And we have been seeing a few things here and there happening. I'm curious to ask you as well, are you concerned, and how is this going by on your end?
Look, I mean, I think the world is an interesting place, especially at the moment, and there's always a lot going on. I think it's fair to say that as Mastercard, we have a responsibility to ensure that we provide payments, and we're also there to work with government when we need to think differently about how to turn up. And so, during COVID, we had a lot of projects about thinking with government, how can we disperse monies in different ways?
Yeah.
And so that's one of the reasons at the moment why governments are thinking about central bank digital currency.
Yeah.
Because they're saying, well, is there an eventuality where I need to disperse a digital currency? And, rightly or wrongly, that conversation will continue. And I can tell you, most governments in Africa are thinking that through at the moment. What is Mastercard's role? Well, Mastercard, if you think about it, has run a card network and provided the rules in that network for years. So we can help work through with those governments how to manage the rules in that ecosystem. And, we've also got some proof points. We actually launched the first digital currency globally in the Bahamas with the Sand coin. And so we are advising governments on things like digital currencies. We've also bought a company called CipherTrace. And what CipherTrace does is it allows banks to understand the origin of crypto. So as the crypto makes its way through the ecosystem, is it something that they can touch? Is it something they can use? Because you'll find if you look around East Africa, a lot of governments have put a pause on crypto. And so that's okay. We need to regulate. We possibly need to think about how to manage crypto better. But we also need to help our banks to think through how they're going to manage the risk associated with some of the fraud concerns around crypto. So we definitely think that crypto's got, as a flow, has got some utility, and there will be use cases. But ultimately what Mastercard needs to do is to help government and banks to work that flow through.
Right. And finally, what's your future outlook? And I would like you to put in something about innovation, because I keep seeing lots of innovation coming up in this financial sector. I don't know what you're seeing as your future outlook.
I think the future outlook is one where we're going to have a consumer who simply just wants to make payments in lots of different directions and should do it without too much friction. So friction sometimes is good. But ultimately that customer experience, if I want to send money to my grandma in Thailand, or I want to send, I wanted to send some money to you right now. Because, you went halves with me on lunch. I should be able to do that in the moment. I can't do that right now. It's not easy. I can't just pick up my phone and do that. And so I think there's a future where I can do that. And if I don't have the money, maybe I've got embedded finance options to help do it. So I think that's definitely where we need to work with our partners to provide that experience to the likes of you and me, so we can help each other out.
Does Kenya got some credit because of the M-Pesa? Absolutely right. Thank you so much for your time, sir. All right, that's Mark Elliott, the Division President, Sub-Saharan Africa, Mastercard, really helping us understand what they are doing here, and of course, very optimistic of the future, and really helping many, not only businesses, but even persons have access and easy flow of finance. Thank you so much for your time. I'll leave you now with the markets.